Jesus Christ, the metasphere of human spirit, or how you can develop Christ in you, the essence of the good, born into matter. All common conceptions of the distinction between good and evil, these dualistic views of the world, and at times also of the beyond and of all potentially highest divine spheres, are always based on the assumption that the coarse material plane of all existence is the actual originator of all evil. This is because it excludes all subtle forces from its own mode of operation, and yet can still be manifestly influenced by them through the power of thought. On a physical plane, there exist spheres that are separated from one another in reality, precisely because they interact with and within each other in completely different ways. Spirit can transform matter, but matter cannot fertilize or inspire the spirit, even though it too is a form of energetic state. The energy of the dead spirit is, so to speak, trapped within matter. Without the assistance of the higher vibrating spirit, it cannot liberate itself from within, and thus always requires stimulation from the potential of the highest primordial spirit. This is also the reason why the lower vibration of matter can hardly ever create consciousness of itself, and why the coarse material can never truly integrate itself into the order of the good human world. The forces of nature give us a very clear impression of this, and when these natural forces intrude upon our lives with almost consummate violence, people realize that the potentiality of spirit can never truly take seat within this crystallized form of evil, matter itself. That is also why the primordial force, the so-called Urkraft that dwells within us, must never long for or orient itself toward matter, but must always be directed toward the highest origin of the primordial. From there comes all power of transformation and transmutation. From there must the idea of human goodness arise, and from there it generates the highest forms of gentle vibration toward humankind. Therefore, the meta-avatar Christ, born into matter, is precisely this archetype of the manifest potentiality of all that is good, and can be occupied or replaced by no other crystal, no other manifestation of God's presence. He is the eternal and unmistakable sign of the one and only Creator God, who ever brings forth only the good, since in perfected form he stands even higher than the greatest potential of the primordial itself. The material bondage of humanity and its conditioning. Human beings therefore require a guide in their lives, because through their very physical presence they are always bound to matter. Again and again they are governed and inwardly directed by matter itself, that which is ultimately separated from the supreme creative power of the primordial source. Their entire evolutionary conditioning revolves solely around the inner essence of the animal human, around how it can, in practice, compel benefit for physical existence, and thus temporarily free itself from material needs and necessities, from the compulsion to act and to perform, so that it might perhaps one day ascend into the higher sphere of the divine spirit. Yet most people are restless within themselves, trapped in the evolutionary plane of existence, devoid of strength, will, and awareness that their manifest presence is itself an expression of the power of the primordial, and that they carry this within them. They neither understand, nor does it hold any meaning for them within the material world, why they were born into matter. They comprehend neither their own essence nor the true purpose of matter itself. For the so-called spiritual, creative, overgod human, matter is, figuratively speaking, merely a tool by which he can continually orient and attune himself and his presence. For the so-called spiritual, creative, overgod human, matter is, figuratively speaking, merely a tool by which he can continually orient and attune himself and his presence. The matter of the world, all tribulation, misfortune and hardship for humanity and the earth, is for the spiritual overgod human the point of transformation, the crucible through which, in the furnace of the spirit's struggle, he receives his tools of craftsmanship. He is not the center of the cosmos, nor even of the world, yet he is the only consciously endowed and recognized manifestation of God and of God's potentiality, and thus, in this creative function, cannot be replaced by anything. If we now compare the human being who bears within himself the potential of the overgod human, of the highest creative capacity in formative power, with the animal human of coarse matter, we recognize a difference that clearly reveals why so many cannot, without Jesus Christ, attain to being truly good human beings. The laws of matter are too manifest for one to overcome this conditioning. Our genetic patterns allow an almost infinite range of possible behaviors, and our mind and reason hold all the fundamental faculties to perceive every level of reality. Yet it is precisely this genetic dimension that binds us, through entirely natural needs, ever to the world to find, within endless cycles of arising, being and passing away, our entire fulfillment as human beings. But Christ did not see this as humanity's destiny, otherwise he would have never been born upon this earth, to be our purposeful help in overcoming this world of evil. Evil, because it is always only the uncontrolled aspect of matter which acts upon us with the greatest force and which we perceive, as natural law, to be bound to matter. To overcome these forces not by evading them, but by transcending within them, this is the supreme spiritual act of the Avatar Jesus Christ. He alone, as the primordial image of the good, bears within himself the power of healing for all evil spirits and souls of humankind, for all malignant animal humans. Therefore, Jesus Christ can be replaced by no one in this capacity. The prophets may have borne other names, arisen at other times, and lived in other ages, yet the principle behind them was always the Avatar Christ, and his transcendent power to lead all human beings back into the primordial, into the highest creative fulfillment of the good. The history of the prophets. There may have been many great figures throughout the history of humankind, yet all of them were luminous beings, bearers of a new vision of the world. They always appeared when the world was shrouded in darkness, when the shadow of humanity threatened to become overpowering, when matter had gained an almost complete dominion over the free spirit of mankind. And we know, for Christ has taught us, that there has always been and always will be the animal human, that being who, in a perfected way, binds himself entirely to all that is material, believing that at least for a time, perhaps even permanently, and within a certain sphere of influence, he can transform the brief life of a lost human being into a triumphal march of eternity and infinity, thereby escaping his own annihilation. Thus, for every person there comes a moment, even for the best among them, when they seek to make themselves worthy of eternity and infinity. Some attempt this through their children, others by building monuments or by striving to reach the highest peaks of human achievement. Yet all must reach the point where every task has been fulfilled, every desire dissolves, every deed cries out for its end, and death becomes the final fulfiller of all futility. But Christ brought a different message to these people. For he says that no one must accomplish any achievement in order to be fulfilled. No one needs to leave behind anything that might bring them a little closer to eternity and infinity. What matters is only that one has understood why he was on this earth, why, as a splinter of the world spirit, he was brought into this reality, to find here his fulfillment and completion. Most of the pitied are those who have never in any way grasped what this is about, that the highest creative power within us has always held the potential to recognize its own strength. It therefore makes no difference what great works a society may leave behind. It is enough to recognize the essential, the fundamental truth of oneself and of the cosmos, to understand the meaning behind all things, the purpose of our earthly existence, and to realize that we are equipped with the finest and best faculties bestowed upon us by Christ himself, drawing upon his power within us as we bring the world into transformation in his name. For this reason, the world soul, the highest potential, sends prophets again and again into the world of matter, so that misguided humanity and many other beings may recognize what their task is, why they came to earth, and what they must accomplish within that calling. This knowledge cannot be described or attained through science. It must be experienced within the whole being of man himself, by becoming the highest, greatest creative force and thereby entering into communion with the primordial, from which all has arisen. The prophets are merely the witnesses of this state, this condition of highest meta-experience and superior levels of knowledge that already exists within all of us, concerning the supreme reality of the so-called primordial source. Anyone can be an avatar, and although it would be simple to not only recognize the good, but also to act upon it, and although many prophets have shown us a righteous path, still many of us are scarcely able to follow this potential as a guiding principle. Almost inevitably, we lose ourselves again and again in the superficialities of the material world, allowing ourselves to be influenced by desires and finding it difficult to free ourselves from these realities. Everything we think, speak and do remains trapped in the material plane, bound to the conceivable malice of all worlds, because we scarcely distinguish the urgently feasible from that which belongs to the realm of free choice. We fail to recognize the difference between that over which we can exercise a decision and that which, by virtue of our physical nature, we are scarcely able to avoid. As a Christian might say, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Yet this wisdom goes deeper. It is the unmistakable knowledge of humanity's animal nature and the recognition that one can scarcely ever distance oneself from one's animal soul, unless one utilizes the avatar Christ, thereby bidding farewell to physical drives and apparent necessities and developing into new realms of one's own creative capacity. One must understand that it is entirely free for each person to become an avatar themselves, for this power lies within every human being, in some hidden or buried by the inability to see, in others suppressed by painful or horrific experiences. There are even those who practice their faith purely for self-interest, becoming ill, aging, or socially disadvantaged, and then seeking a tool to remedy, revive, or eliminate the inner lack or emptiness. But Christ is not present to fulfill wishes or undo actions. He works on an entirely different plane within us. He embodies the acceptance of the eternal, infinite potential of all possible creative forces of the primordial, and he himself is the materialized message of this truth. He does not make anything undone in the manner of a magician wielding sorcery. Rather, he is infinite, creative forgiveness, so that from this perception the world reconciles with itself and humanity reconciles with itself within it. Those who carry the essence of Christ within themselves are fulfilled, without expecting anything from the laws of nature that they cannot themselves provide. Yet Christ, by transcending all rigid forms of materialism, is able to completely free the soul and the spirit, and by reconciling humans fully with their spirit, he shows them the path that allows them to become whole and complete without requiring corresponding deeds on the material plane. This is the purpose of this revelation, which only can make humanity free, for he is the messenger of this freedom. In this regard, all sins will pass away, all evil deeds will be erased, and the evil will be replaced by the good. This promise he has given us, and he will continue to fulfill it, extending it into all eternity and infinity. This becomes possible by allowing the essence of Christ into one's spirit and soul, so that he may manifest within us in his perfected creative power. Humanity is not weak. Its spirit in Christ is perfected and strong. Faith alone does not play a decisive role in whether one will be redeemed in one's innermost being through Christ. What matters solely is the will, the desire to receive him within oneself, to grant him a value, important, central, and all-encompassing place, so that everything further may develop from it. Humans, precisely because they are generally weak, are destined to take a good example from him, to learn to love and value him, and then to act in the world as spiritual transformers through him and his powers. All the forces of the universe are connected to the power of Christ, and his strong arms of action are the forces of love and truth. On this foundation, He is eternally superior to us humans, who are poor sinners and always use evil for ourselves in order to construct our own reality. We are therefore born weak, because as physical beings we too have a task to shape ourselves through the world and thereby fulfill this natural assignment. But in order not to despair at the world of the physical, we absolutely need a transcendent example, a central factor of wisdom, of all experience, the Avatar, and how He has manifested Himself for us. For only through this are we able to follow the example of the good. Therefore, no one should question whether Christ existed or not, for His kingdom is not of this material world. He is our guide and exemplar of another reality, which can only re-enter this world through our imagination. It is thus important to recognize that every human being, in their basic constitution, carries a vital force along their entire life path, the so-called Primordial Force or Urkraft, with all its potentially infinite, eternal creative capacity. If we choose to follow Jesus Christ, we can see within this the first and finest royal path, through which we can materialize ourselves and our will, transform evil into good, breathe spirit into all that is material, and employ this miracle through our own creative power for the benefit of others. Only in this way do we, through the power of Christ Himself, become the healers of the world. Only in this way we can eventually transform even the most desperate life situations into a viable path and keep calamity largely away from this world and its people. The laws of nature have no power over Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is not bound by the laws of nature. He exists beyond them, for He is the highest potential itself and can become anything He wills, whenever He wills. He creates entire universes, the full cosmic beauty and reality of all space and time. Christ cannot change the natural forces He Himself created, but He can create new realities by transmitting His creative potential. He does not seek to replace His own creation. For this task He has entrusted to humanity, so that humans, like Christ Himself, may become the creators of their own realities. He has given this freedom to all people. Everything can be expected from Christ as it arises in us through His great example. His will is our will, and our will is His will. Therefore, Jesus Christ even stands above the laws of nature, for His power to create new, unlimited realities goes beyond the mere reality of natural laws. He can return at any moment to the infinite potential of the primordial, and there bring forth the absolute new. If we recognize His power and understand that it is also valid within us, that it is contained within us through Him, then we can, in ourselves, form eternity and infinity according to the example of the primordial. We can undo all that the laws of nature have imposed upon us as the highest material reality. This is the secret of Christ's power as the greatest and most potent creative being in the universe. We can apply this understanding of true freedom through Christ to our own existence, so that we too are capable of transcending the laws of nature. For just as death holds no power over us when we understand the essence of Christ, and that through Him we possess eternal life, so matter can inflict no suffering upon us, nor imprison us. Instead, through our spirit, we are free to act or refrain from the action according to what He brings into effect through His creative power within us. Whatever we allow within ourselves becomes, through Him, a new reality. This is not self-deception, nor fiction, nor a mere imagination of what He is or could be. Rather, it is the knowledge of how potentiality, under His influence, restores the primordial world within us, where all potentiality is continuously rebuilt and creatively renewed. This is the full power of Christ, whether He is called Christus, Krishna, or Crystal. He always condenses the highest level of the absolute creative spirit within Himself and, through this, brings forth new realities. Therefore, the power of Christ is within all of us, and His power stands behind and above all natural laws. Yet very few are aware of these infinite, eternal forces of the highest potential of the primordial, that they pervade everything, are always and everywhere present, and are revealed and taught to us through Christ as the mediator between all worlds. Through awareness to one's own creative light of Jesus Christ, to reach the eternal sphere of the highest approximated potential within ourselves through Christ, it is important to understand that the great, old works of medieval art from the mystical Christian European metaphysics can guide us, helping us to dive ever deeper into this plane. In particular, the works of Thomas von Kempen and his De Imitatione Christi or Von der Nachfolge Christi should be considered, but now to be seen through the lens of the eternal creative light of Jesus Christ himself, which arises within us. Through humility, modesty, and purity of heart, one can enter the sphere of the highest creative level, where good flows like a spring of eternal refreshing water from the human spirit. This symbolic representation should be taken comparatively, so as to generate the will of Jesus Christ within oneself permanently and creatively. It is essential to recognize that only Christ can redeem us from the evil of the world, and that He is the successor of all significant human prophets from the ancient past. Within Him, all these voices manifest, the voices that for millennia sought to bring a little more light to humanity. All of these prophets brought the light of truth and love into human history, attempting to guide the lost and confused onto the right path. Yet all of these, Christ is the greatest, and His work continues, so that one day all of humanity may fully understand it, and thereby also become free from superstition and free from the compulsion to solve all problems solely through intellect and logic. Perhaps this is why He is the greatest peacemaker of all times, for He shows every person a viable path for their own life, thus giving the world a chance against the evil of animal-human, which multiplies unceasingly among humans and seek to take root even within the good. The world at the end of its days. Everything is twisted, and this is a sure sign that the end of society is near. Much is in disarray, and humanity can no longer distinguish evil from good. Materialism has hardened hearts and drained them of love. The power of evil today is stronger than ever in the world. We feel it within ourselves, and we can see it everywhere. The state of the world is worse than ever, and evil is spreading among people. Many see it, are desperate, and find no hope. Christ spoke about these times and declared that He would be our only, ultimate salvation. For He stands for all that is good, sustainable, loving, and true, for all forms of human justice. All that technological development and progress have brought us has been a vain effort to make the world better. Conflicts among humans have only increased, and today the struggle between good and evil has fully erupted. Evil is not always to be sought in nature. It smolders and festers within humanity itself. It was precisely this that our leader and peacemaker warned us about, for He foresaw these times. He said that in the last days of humanity, love for one's neighbor would grow cold, that people would grow alienated from one another, and that they would become more selfish and hard-hearted. He pointed out that one should not accumulate worldly treasures, which time inevitably destroys, but instead treasure the riches of the heart, truth and love, the fellowship of humans in the spirit of togetherness, for only these values endure eternally. He spoke of a world twisted in this final age, where no one could trust another. These times have now arrived and can only be undone with the help of Jesus Christ, the great Redeemer. There is no other worldly or spiritual power capable of opposing them, except Christ, who must find rebirth and return in the consciousness of humanity. Therefore, in these last days of supreme activity, all evil will reach its peak just as Christ appears, when evil can no longer be restrained, when it rages and strikes violently, taking life after life. Evil will spare nothing and no one, claiming everything and everyone, as it rapidly multiplies among humanity. Yet in these times, in the most terrible hours of humankind, he will return as the great Avatar, once more to save sinful, destructive, and malevolent humanity from itself as a new prophet. No one need wait for this time. They can already come to know Christ today, experience His faithfulness and reliability, and understand that He will leave no one alone with their problems. Humans need only recognize that He is present for them in these difficult hours of absolutist materialism, and they can trustfully turn to Him, so that, in His name, they can remove evil from the world, creating spaces of understanding and freedom for themselves and others. Then it will become clear that good is far more powerful than the consuming evil, and the world will be transformed through the power of Jesus Christ, within us and through us, by the consequences of our own actions. To bring this about, however, one must be willing to know Christ, to embrace Him in one's heart, and to provide Him with every opportunity to form a vessel of the Grail within, so that the full potential of the primordial can manifest in humanity. This will become the salvation of the world, and only in this way can humanity receive good again. This good is latent within humans, but under the rule of evil and its materialism, it cannot prevail, until the masses recognize that only through the mediator between heaven and earth, through Christ, the avatar of all good people, and through His own example, the world and its people can be healed.